Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I guess welcome back, or if you've stayed throughout the duration of the event, we're so happy to end with this amazing panel of recruiting and talent and career strategist professionals. We're gonna pick their brain a little bit about everything you just learned in the session, but how to apply it so that you can get a recruiter's attention and really stand out in your resume and in your interview. So I have the pleasure of knowing these panelists, and they are so well respected in their industries. So really, we're fortunate that they are giving up their time today to be here. We're really appreciative of that. I've worked with a couple of them for a really long time, so I know that their organizations are amazing, and I can't wait for them to share information about themselves and their background. And again, I'm Rachel Mitchell. I'm the Director of Business Development for TorontoJobs.ca. And we've been doing these virtual events. We used to do live events. Marlin and Patty both used to go to our live events, and it's been very unfortunate, but we are trying to make connections in a virtual world and still kind of stay connected to our community. So this is the way we've been doing it. This is our last event of the year, our last panel of the year. So hoping that you guys can take away some awesome information from today. So I just want to start off by going around the room and maybe having everyone introduce themselves, their organizations, talk a little bit about their culture, their brand. If you want to talk a little bit about how you got into recruiting, I'm sure a lot of people that are listening are probably wondering that as well. So maybe Patty, we'll start with you and we'll work our way around.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me again, to Rachel and the Toronto Jobs. I'm happy to be here. Happy to have been invited back on the panel. I'm the regional recruiter for Dilawri group of companies in Ontario. We have 19 dealerships, so service and sales across the GTA. So if you think about the roles that are present in a dealership environment, we have anything and all in between. We are recruiting imminently. We have 40 plus roles available currently. So it's exciting. I've been in automotive recruiting since 2012 and with the Dilawri group of companies since September 2020. So my story is an example of somebody who was able to change jobs quite successfully during a pandemic. And we've been on quite a hiring up. We have not stopped hiring since the pandemic started. So it's exciting and busy. Our culture is super customer focused, whether you're working behind the scenes or in front of our customers. So I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
That's great. And 40 open roles. That's a lot of positions. That's great. And I like to hear that.
I'm minimizing it, but there's probably more.
Especially in the automotive, I guess, that's great that it's growing like that. I appreciate that. And Marlin, maybe talk a little bit about your background. I know you've had some amazing career moves too lately, and really looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah. Hi, and thanks for having us on the panel, Rachel. So my name is Marlin. I'm a talent acquisition and project manager for LevelUp. LevelUp is an HR company. We provide RPO services, HR advisory in whatever issues you can have in HR. We're there to assist companies pretty much. It's a US based company, so we support customers here in Montreal, in actually the automotive industry, in banking environments and IT. So I'm happy to be here today to be able to share my knowledge and pretty much what is today and give pointers to everybody about how to get around the market. And so I'm happy to be here today.
That's great. Thanks so much for being here. And Kadine, we'll finish off with you. Oh, you're just on mute. There you go.
I was trying to be intentional that wouldn't happen, and of course
I love that.
So thank you so much. I was just saying thank you for having me here, Rachel, and Toronto Hot Jobs. This is my second time on the panel, so I'm excited to be back. A little bit about me. I don't want to say ex-HR professional, but I'm an ex-recruiter. I supported or worked in the talent acquisition space for about 16 years before transitioning myself just before COVID. And starting my own practice as a career transition coach. So I now coach executives and professionals to basically create and design their career brand so they can then land their dream job and earn the compensation that they deserve. So how I do that, I won't get into it too much, but I use a very holistic approach through a discovery call and session to determine exactly what a specific client needs, because we're all individual, we're all unique. You're not a box, a triangle, or a square. So it's deciding what you need and then customizing or creating something specific to suit your needs. I do have some recruitment consultant clients that I'm working with, but they're all based in the US. So no Toronto or GTA opportunities here, but I'm excited to be here and to share my insights and knowledge.
That's great. That's amazing. So yeah, we hope to really educate and give you some insider advice. So I kind of want to start with resumes and then work our way to interviews. But I first want to just talk about COVID a little bit, because I think that probably a lot of people that are watching right now have really been affected by it. I know a lot of industries, were really hard hit, during the pandemic, and things are starting to open up, starting to look a little bit better. I know a lot of companies are hiring. We're noticing, especially in certain areas. Certain areas continue to thrive, just a little bit harder. A lot more people applying, given that a lot of people became unemployed. So we just lost Marlin. Hopefully he can find his way back. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about maybe how, I know, Patty, you changed jobs during COVID, and maybe a lot of people are in that position too. So you can maybe speak to that personally, but maybe if you can touch on, what's changed in your industry and what have you seen, and maybe give your best advice for someone who is still looking for a job or who has been affected by it.
Well, there's so much has changed. We can go down many rabbit holes, but essentially the candidate pool, from my perspective, and my team's perspective, has changed. So, if you all remember back on March 13th, 2020, we all probably remember what we were doing that day when everything was shutting down, and we were like, gosh, do we even have any hand sanitizer? And then people started to be laid off. And, in that process, some people are called back and some people aren't. And that is just steamrolling across the whole country, across the whole world, in whatever industry that you're working in. So here we are landed. I'm hoping the dust has settled a little bit and we're starting to get back to some type of normalcy. But what has changed is the candidate pool. So as I was saying, we've got, 40 plus roles available at 19 plus dealerships. And what I'm finding is that I'm spending a lot of time chasing candidates. That could be for a skilled trade, like we employ licensed technicians with their 310S license, or lot attendants and car washers, and even sales consultants. So if I get an advertisement for a car washer, for instance, and 5 people apply, I reach out to all of them, regardless of their experience, and via text, via email, and via phone call. Whereas in the past, pre-pandemic, I might just email them depending on the role, or phone call them. But now I'm finding with all 3 of those channels, I'm lucky to get 2 people to contact me. So the candidate pool has changed. I don't know how to exactly articulate it, but I feel like people aren't chomping at the bit to be working right now. I don't know if that surprises anyone.
I can just piggyback on that a little bit, Patty, if I may. I think, and it's frustrating, I think, from a recruiter or a talent acquisition or hiring manager standpoint, because here you are, as a candidate, you've applied to this position. So now we're reaching out to connect with you about this opportunity. But I think we all need to show each other some grace. This is what I've been saying for everyone. But I think a lot of individuals are just applying and just throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? Yes. And just putting themselves out there. But at the same time, they're also doing some introspective thinking and thinking, did I really want that type of role, or did I really want that opportunity? But it's your brand, and I'm a huge believer of protecting your brand. So if anyone is on here and has ghosted a recruiter or a headhunter, please just do yourself you're doing yourself a disservice by not at least responding to that call or that email, just to say that you're no longer interested in the opportunity. But I think it has a lot to do with just people there's just so much going on.
I agree.
That they don't know whether they're here or there most days. The candidates that I've been speaking to, that's the kind of feeling that I'm getting.
Yes. So, the people that I do get to speak to, they're often saying that, like, I don't remember that I applied for that role, or thank you so much. But again, those are the people that I am able to connect with. So yes, thank you for backing me up there, Kadine.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, he's back. Maybe kind of expanding on that, like you're working with a lot of people that are in a position of career transition. How are you finding people are staying motivated, or how are you motivating, people that you're working with?
So for me, it really starts with your why and what is it that you really want to do? Because I feel like everyone is on a pause. So it's what are you doing during this time that you've been gifted with? So it's through assessments, through questionnaires, and pulling out to them what are their strengths, what are their motivators, their demotivators, what are your top 5 organizations that you're interested in, and how can we then target you as a top talent for those organizations? So to what I was saying, just throwing spaghetti at the wall, it's not successful, it's not sustainable, and it's not healthy. It's really about networking and building your relationship and your branding presence that's going to make you stand out amongst other individuals. But building that presence too and that confidence. So some of the work that I've been doing is a lot of confidence building and boosting, because I feel like everyone's been feeling a little bit demotivated and demoralized because this was so unexpected. They've either lost their job or they're using this time to pivot or to transition, but they're like, how do I show my strengths? How do I explain or articulate my transferable skills from one company or one role to another? So a lot of that is it's pulling it out and unpacking whatever blockages they have, whatever things that they have that are getting in their way, and then helping them to position themselves to move forward.
Yeah, that's
Long-winded answer. Sorry.
great advice. No, I love that. That's great advice. So Marlon, we were kind of just talking about changes and things that you've noticed before COVID. I don't know if you heard my question before you we lost you there.
You
but
said COVID and my computer crashed.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that.
we're done with it.
So just anything you're seeing, any kind of advice you can give surrounding COVID, and then I want to talk about strategies and positive things. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So I mean, what we've seen, and I mean that's I think regardless of industry, is that people are less and less responsive during COVID, because I think everybody or has a job, or everybody pretty much is. There is more people working than there is jobs available. So I mean, at the end of the day, that's pretty much what it is. So you just have to be a little more, if I can say, competitive into the way you apply, and the way you just to make it through the ATS and through the recruiters and so on to get to the managers. Everybody is looking for jobs, and I think everybody is more specific now about what they're looking for, and that's what I think we've seen across the board, compared to just before, when you could just apply on any job because we had a lot of openings and so on. Today there is less choices, and some industries also are not back on yet. So a lot of people are transferring and transitioning careers. So there is more people into other fields, especially in banking, for instance. So that's what we've seen pretty much on our side.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was mentioning when I was doing the opening remarks for today, I have heard a lot of stories, and some of them are very, hard to hear, in terms of people who've been in their industry for 25, 30 years. And, it's hard for them to start over at this point, and their industry was just kind of taken over and no longer because of COVID. And just to hear these things is, you just want to help as many people, as you can. And I think that people coming to these things and getting knowledge, and I mentioned my biggest advice is just setting goals for yourself every week. And if you can attain those goals and you're working towards them, it can really help you be in a positive mindset. Because I know a lot of people need that right now, and it's hard to stay positive when it's so difficult right now to find a job. But things are looking a little better. We're noticing a little bit of a spike in openings and things like that. So it seems a little bit more positive, obviously, than it was even 6 months ago. So yeah, I maybe we can shift gears a little bit, and we'll start with you, Kadine, because you are in the driver's seat in terms of being eat, sleep, and breathing resumes and helping people, really win over those recruiters. So I want to start with you to maybe give us your best advice about, it's 2021, we're moving into 2022. Resumes have always just seemed to be a piece of paper where it's, you put this and you put that on there and then you submit it. So, what is your advice that you're giving people? I think people need to be a little bit more creative in the way that they're applying. They need to be a little bit more forward with quantitative information and really giving a why in terms of why you should hire me. I always say, you know, it's one thing to write, I have strong customer service skills. It's another thing to prove it, to see what you're going to bring to, you know, Patty's company, right? So what is your best advice for how candidates can win over Patty?
So a couple of things. I always say to my clients that a employer has a problem or a challenge, and you have to show that you're the solution to that problem. That's the first thing, right? When you're talking about your value proposition and why they should choose you over another. The other thing is it's your profile on LinkedIn, because 9 times out of 10, Patty, and I'm sure you can relate, depending on the opportunity and the role, of course, that once you get a candidate's resume in front of you, you're going to LinkedIn just to check, to ensure the checks and balances are there. You're going to make sure that it matches up. So your LinkedIn profile should be like from top to bottom, something that entices an employer all the way down. So from your tagline to your photo, get some recommendations that speaks to your credibility as well. And I always say, I call it career networking versus just networking, because networking is just like what we're doing here, right? Connecting with individuals that possibly, but it's being mindful and intentional. Every time you're on that LinkedIn platform, say that you have the list of those 5 employers that you're interested in. Who's the HR manager? Who's the marketing manager? Who are the individuals that you potentially could be working with? And you're not asking for the job, you're just building relationships and asking for exploratory conversations. It's just a conversation, right? Just to start, at least to bring, and then like, share their posts, comment, share things that you've read about your industry that are kind of like buzz items or highlights or insights, and just start the conversation. Show that you are a subject matter expert in your area.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, and I'm sure Patty is going to definitely agree with you. What are you looking for when candidates, you know, submit their resume? How are you going through the screening process? When you're getting, you know, hundreds of resumes, I'm sure that you have to go through on a daily basis. I don't know if you use an ATS system or if you're scanning them or if you're reviewing them manually, but what's your best advice?
Well, clean and concise. And again, though, pepper that with a little bit of grace there too, as Kadine said earlier. I'm not the fussiest person when it comes to resumes, maybe for an entry-level role, like as a lot attendant or maybe a car washer. But I'm a little bit fussier when it comes to a sales consultant or anybody that's in administration, where, you know, writing skills and proper spelling is gonna be required. So because we have multiple roles, it's hard. But if it's a licensed technician, I'm really looking for that trade certification right away. But in terms of being clear and concise, I think the days, I don't know if you will all agree with me, the days of super busy resumes are done. I need simplicity and clarity. And what I've seen a lot of over the last, sorry, I'm umming a lot, apologies, over the last 18 months. Over the last 18 months, I'm seeing a lot of resumes that's the employment stopped at August 2020 or March of 2020. And my first question will be, are you currently working? And most often people will say yes, and they've worked a couple of small jobs here and there. But I think that there's a way that they can articulate it or visually into verbiage to show that, you know, during COVID transition, this is what I was doing, just briefly, instead of leaving that blank. I'm going to ask the question anyway, and any recruiter worth their salt will do so. But it's nice to see clarity and simplicity on a resume. And again, you know, if you're using, I've often had candidates, I've called their number and say, well, that's my sister's phone number. So why is it on your resume? You know, and you go through this little dance, or, oh, I don't look at my emails very often. So then why is it on your resume? You know, so if you're going to have information on your resume, make a point of responding to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marlin, we'll end this kind of question with you. I know you work on behalf of many different clients with many different requirements and different jobs, I'm assuming, in different areas and industries. You know, what's your advice for how a candidate could stand out on their resume?
So, I mean, a resume tells a story, right? It's and it tells your story. And that's what I keep telling candidates all the time. So you really have to be, as Patty and Kadine shared, is you have to be concise on your resume, and you have to actually make sure that it reflects to you. Sometimes, copy pasting job descriptions and all these type of things and make lengthy resumes is not really the way to get through anymore. I think you want to make sure that you're competitive, and you want to make sure that your resume actually matches what you actually have on your LinkedIn account, and make sure that it correlates. It's okay, everybody, we had a pandemic, people lost jobs and found new jobs and so on, but you have to list them in there, what you've been doing before, what you do socially, if I can even call it like that, what you've been doing this pandemic, pretty much, because before a resume, you're a human being. And I think especially now, we're going back to this era where we're realizing that beyond the piece of paper, we have humans in front of us, and you really stick to the story. Your resume is telling a story. And if I can add on the LinkedIn comment, your network is your net worth. So really, beyond that, take your resume and what other companies I've been working with and and who actually works in that company I just applied in now and that I worked with before, who did I go to school with, and you get to be more creative into your job search, because that's actually really beyond the resume. That's actually really what's gonna get in front of the right people also. So that's my advice.
Yeah, that's great. And I kind of want to expand on that a little bit. It wasn't a question that I had prepared. I know Kadine kind of touched on it about networking. So we're talking about LinkedIn, and we're talking about kind of the hidden, job market, and LinkedIn is an extremely valuable tool, which I'm sure anyone would tell you, for your job search. I mean, there's groups, there's pages, there's your network. There's just so much value in that platform. So, Kadine, how I know that you asked me about, or we talked about networking as being so important in your job search. What are your kind of tips for? It doesn't have to be utilizing LinkedIn. I'm just thinking of playing off Marlin a little bit in terms of LinkedIn as a tool. But what are your top strategies for networking to find a job? Because a lot of I don't know what the percentage is anymore, but 80% of the jobs.
It's still 80%. I think it's still 80%.
Okay, all right. So 80% of jobs are in the hidden job market. So that's generally coming from your network or networking or knowing someone. So what's your advice surrounding that? How can someone really put themselves out there?
Make sure that your resume, your LinkedIn profile is clear, concise, and consistent. Just to add to what Patty says, make sure that you take the time to craft and create and design your profile, because from top to bottom, so get rid of that LinkedIn banner, show something that shows your personality and your creativity, or something that's relevant to the field that you want to get into, and don't leave anything unturned. So the about section, the types of opportunities that you're looking for, because you can put hashtags in there. Be active on your profile as well, so at least 3 times a week, be active on that profile. And then from top to bottom, you want to make sure that you grab that attention span, which is sometimes correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, but sometimes it's like 3 to 6 seconds. I look at the candidate's profile, I scroll down, I'm like, okay, no, next, because we don't have time to go through 250. We want to see something that's bang, caught our attention, is interesting, and then we're going to say, okay, let me scroll down. This is someone that I want to connect with, right? So you want to make sure that your profile is just really appealing and speaks to who you are as a professional. So if you are a marketing professional, don't put that you do videography and photography and stuff on the side, because it's confusing and it's not contributing to the opportunity and the role that you want to eventually seek, right? So just make sure that it's clear, concise, and consistent with your brand and the jobs that you're seeking.
I know that's great advice. Absolutely.
I was just going to say, I like that you articulate it as your brand. So when we think about the company that I work for, Dilawri Group of Companies, we have brands of automobiles, and some people come specifically for that brand. So I like the way you articulated a person branding themselves, because you're right, you're your own brand, and it has to be presented effectively. Sorry.
Absolutely. And no, thank you for adding to that. So I always say, be protective of your brand as well. Like, I'm very protective of Kadine Cooper, because that's my name, and I'm going to be Kadine Cooper no matter where I go. So in essence, everyone should be protective of their brand. And their brand, if people don't see you in a room, they should be able to hear about you because of your expertise, right? So that's always my goal, is to be able to make an impression even when I'm not in the room. So people can speak, oh my gosh, yeah, you should connect with Kadine. Right? So that should be your goal. Leave that impression. How do people feel after they've interacted or engaged with you? And that should be a feeling that should be able to come off the page as well.
And I'll give you the flip side of that, if I may, Rachel. The flip
Yeah,
side of
absolutely.
not protecting your brand is you no-show for an interview. I make that note right in Outlook calendar and in our ATS system that says no showed for an interview. So if you apply again, chances are I'm not going to contact you. Or was very rude on the phone, or didn't call me back at all.
Unprofessional. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I love that you identified it as branding. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wanna ask this too and this is kind of touching a little bit on what we've been talking about. But Marlin, how do you think candidates can set themselves apart? Like what's the best advice you have for having people? We talked about the resume a little bit, what they can do 6 to 8 seconds to really wow, adding quantitative information. In their job search, what can they do to get your attention?
Well, I think beyond even getting our attention, I think it technically, well, if you're looking for a job, it's a job in itself. That's what I keep saying all the time. It's a 9 to 5. It's really setting yourself expectations, and is really setting yourself with certain personal goals that you want to hit, how many jobs you want to apply for, who you want to engage with, and really who do you want to go for coffee with, and so on, right? So it's really utilizing all these tools that you have around you, which is LinkedIn, Indeed, all these type of things. But really the way you set yourself apart is by also not using and sending generic messages to everybody around, but by really crafting those and crafting your resume based on what you apply for. That's actually how you set yourself apart, especially in such a job market. So that would be my advice.
I like that. That's a great.
Can I just add to what you just said, Marlin, as well? When you talk about crafting the message, that also is really key. So ensure that you're not copying and pasting to everybody that you're connecting with, that you're adding a detailed note. So take the time to look at an individual's profile. Like I've had people reach out to me for recruitment positions before I was doing my recruitment consulting again. And I'm like, I'm no longer a recruiter. I'm no longer recruiting. Did you look at my profile? Clearly you didn't. So make sure that you look at the profile and see if there's any commonalities. Maybe you aspire to work in an organization that they're working or that they've worked in the past. So I'm reaching out to you to find out more about blah, 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 right? But make sure that you take the time to look at the person's profile before reaching out. And then you share in the note message, always include a note as to why. I'm reaching out to you, saw that you either attended or saw that you posted something on your wall today that really intrigued me or that really resonated, something to get the conversation going, right?
Yeah, no, that's great advice. We only have a couple minutes left, and Patty, I just wanted to throw it over to you in terms of, I know you're recruiting for a lot of roles, so I don't know if you want to make mention of some of those and maybe put in the stage chat there just the link so people can apply.
Sure. Again, thank you so much for giving me this platform. As I said, we have 40 plus roles available across the GTA. These are automotive sales or service roles. And when you think service, you're thinking technicians, but everything in and around that. So service advisors, licensed technicians, lot attendants, car washers, sales consultants, sales managers, part-time receptionists, and finance managers as well. And I know that there's some that I'm missing because there's so many, but yes, I will indicate on the stage side, our direct website. And if I dare, my email as well. I'd love to hear from anybody that's wanting to connect for networking.
That's great. And Kadine, maybe you can talk about your business a little bit and how you help people that are in career transition or looking for a job, and maybe include the link to your LinkedIn or your website.
Absolutely. So like I said, start with a discovery call. As a career transition coach, I really help you to figure out what is it that you want to do. So it's either career exploration, maybe you're looking to aspire to get into something else, or you're just exploring and putting your feelers out. So I help you to get crystal clear on what that looks like, clear on the employer, so that, like I said, you're not just throwing and applying, you're being very specific and strategic and focused with your job search. I also share with you insights on interviewing skills, especially in the virtual world that we're in right now. So how do you connect with someone? Like right now, I'm looking directly at my camera versus I'm looking down at the individual, like gonna go up and down, but just little etiquettes that you should look at. Make sure your background is clear. I do mock interviews, record them, and give real-time feedback to my candidates. And like I said, sometimes it's mindfulness. Sometimes it's figuring out what it is that's keeping you stuck to be able to articulate, your value proposition and what you bring to the table. So it's a little bit about what I do. You can find me at careercoachk.com, and I will drop it in the link.
That's amazing. Thanks so much. And Marlin, maybe if you want to share your LinkedIn, or if you want to share, anything to do with your organization, that'd be great as well.
Absolutely. I dropped my LinkedIn in here, and currently I'm actually with a French bank, so we're hiring a lot in IT for sure. So by actually going on my LinkedIn, you'll actually find the links, and yeah, feel free to go on there, shoot me a message if ever you find any opportunity that you're interested in. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing all of this information. It's really amazing. I think I was kind of keeping track a little bit, pulled out like 100 different strategies for job seekers to use, whether it would be networking, resumes, interviews, and it's so amazing. So really appreciate all of you for being here, and thanks to all of our attendees and our speakers today. We really put these on to try to stay connected and help as many people as we can. I know a lot of people have been affected, and that's kind of what the goal was for these events that we've been doing for the last couple of years. So, thanks so much to everyone. This is our last event of the year, so I hope everybody starts 2022 with some amazing goals that we talked about, and strategies, and networking, and really thinking outside of the box to really push your job search. So. Again, thank you so much for being here. We are TorontoJobs.ca. We host the event, so you can visit us online. We have a lot of openings with our recruiting team. So it's TorontoJobs.ca, and Sandra will put a link in the chat just for our recruiting openings. And we also have an exciting platform we've been working on for the last year. It's kind of a new live interview platform, so going to change the way we recruit a little bit, and we're really excited. We're just in the first phase of launching that. And that's called Gahuza.com. So Sandra will put those in the chat. Follow us on social media. We have over 100,000 followers. We're very active. We do a lot of posts every day. And really just looking forward to hopefully seeing you all in 2022. It's been a crazy journey over 2021. But thanks so much to everyone for being here. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much, guys. Thanks for all
your Patty, Marlin.
all your advice.
Bye-bye.
You as well. Thank you so much.